How to do, the geographers. We've talked about rainforests and deforestation, and now we must talk about the sad impacts of that deforestation. Let's do it. Some learning goals for you. Firstly, you're going to know the impacts of deforestation, not just on plants and animals, but also on people, which technically we are animals, but whatever. And you're going to be able to interpret graphs. I'm going to show you a graph and ask you some questions about that graph. Let's talk about the impacts on plants and animals. Please take these notes down. Habitat loss. So habitat is where an animal is. Yeah. Lots of the animals live in the forest. You cut down the forest, they've got nowhere to live, nowhere to get food, they die. Their whole species might go extinct. Yeah. So there you go. Habitat loss equals animal extinction. That's probably one of the biggest negative effects of deforestation. We reckon there's about 137 animals and plants that go extinct per day just from deforestation. And a lot of those animals, we didn't even know anything about them. I mean, they might be unicorns for all we know. Sheesh. More depressing facts. 2% of the world's rainforests are lost every year. We really need to stop doing that. This will be mentioned a little bit in a later lesson as well, but we get erosion and landslides. So remember that tree roots bind the soil together. If you don't have the tree roots, because you cut the tree down, all that soil is looser and the topsoil might erode away, which means you can't grow anything there, and then you get landslides as well. So because the soil's not bound together by the tree roots, when there's a massive amount of rain, like on a hill, all the soil just washes away. It's called a landslide. There's also drought. I think I got you guys to watch a video explaining how the rainforest actually generates its own rain, because the water in the rainforest evaporates straight up into a cloud and then rains back down again. So you get this cycle here. Rain into the forest, back up to the cloud, back down, right? Cut out the, once you cut down the trees, that cycle stops, and so you have droughts. And it has an effect on the water cycle. Oh, that should be effect. Sorry, there's another typo there. Oh my god. So let's have a look at some of these things. So here we go. This is like the edge of an area that's been deforested, so you can see how they look different. And here is some landslides. This is a better one here, right? So lots and lots of rain, and look at all that land that's just washed down into that gorge. Yeah, you can see. So there must have been like a little stream here. Normally would be trees, but because they've been cut down, boom, landslide. Let's talk about the impacts on people. There used to be, no, I calculated that number. Yeah, so there was about 9 million people living in rainforests 500 years ago, and now it's something like only 200,000. So about 98%, yeah? 49 out of every 50 people who lived in the rainforests, they're not there anymore. They're dead because, just like animals, their habitat's been destroyed. We also see the increase in spread of disease because of the cutting down of rainforests. One really weird reason is because if you cut a rainforest down, the bare ground that's left there, you get puddles. You don't get puddles, big puddles in a rainforest because all the water gets absorbed by the plants. But when you cut it down, you get all these puddles. What grows in puddles? Think about if you leave like your inflatable pool up in the backyard for a couple of days. Mosquitoes. And what do mosquitoes carry? A lot of them carry malaria. Not in Australia, but in South America and in Africa they do. So here's an indigenous rainforest dweller. Here, some really, really amazing cultures live in the rainforest. Like how awesome are their tats and their rad clothing. Here's a graph, and here are some questions about that graph. Who might use that graph, and what might they use it for? Does the graph have belts? That's border, axis labels, legend, title, source. Has it got those things? If it doesn't, which ones is it missing? What is the graph? I remember the two questions I'm always asking you. What is the graph about? which you can usually find out from reading the title, interpreting the title. Don't just repeat the title. Tell me in your own words what the graph is about. And I want you to write 4 or 5 sentences summarizing what information that graph is telling us. That's it. Right, deforestation video. Check it out.
Deforestation is the process of removing trees and forests from a landscape. This may be done for many reasons, including making way for other land uses such as agriculture, and also to harvest for wood resources. Although it might not be something you see or hear about every day, deforestation is a problem that is happening all over the world and has been for many years. You might be wondering, how does this affect me? Why should I care? Well, think about the desk that you're sitting at, and the pencil and paper you're writing with, along with the majority of the furniture you use at home. What do they all have in common? They're all made from trees. We use trees to make a lot of different products that we use every single day, which means we have to cut down a lot of trees to make them. So now you may be thinking, well, why should I care? There are lots of trees and forests on Earth. It's true, there are a lot of trees on Earth. In fact, forest covers 1/4 of all land surfaces on Earth. But the problem is the rate at which we harvest them. Currently, humans are cutting down forests at a rate of 36 football fields per minute. Deforestation affects many ecosystem functions, but the question we're asking in this video is, how does this affect the climate? First off, let's talk about carbon cycling. Think about how you breathe. You breathe in oxygen, and you breathe out carbon dioxide. Plants and trees do the opposite. They absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen through a process called photosynthesis. When we cut down large amounts of trees, carbon dioxide is no longer absorbed and it stays in the atmosphere. This is a problem because carbon dioxide acts as a greenhouse gas. This means it acts like a greenhouse by absorbing and re-emitting radiation back down to Earth. We further contribute to this when we burn forest materials because the carbon stored in them is then released into the atmosphere. Greenhouse gases have a warming effect, and because large amounts are being released into the atmosphere all around the world, they are having a global warming effect. On the local scale, however, deforestation is having a different effect. First, let's talk about albedo. The albedo is the amount of light that is reflected off a surface. The main control of albedo is the surface's color. Picture a black car in the sun. Dark colors absorb most of the light, which is why black cars get so hot on a sunny day. White reflects light, which is why white cars don't heat up as much. The same is true with land. A dark surface, such as forest cover, will absorb light, while a bare surface, such as grass, will reflect more light. This causes a local cooling effect. Precipitation patterns are also affected by deforestation. When it rains, plants and trees absorb water. Through transpiration, plants lose water, which is evaporated into the atmosphere. Clouds form from the evaporated water, and when enough is collected, it begins to rain. The cycle then repeats itself. However, the cycle is disrupted when deforestation occurs. When it rains, there are no trees left to uptake the water, so most of the fallen rain collects and moves off the surface as runoff. This means that little water is left to be evaporated, which means there's a smaller contribution towards the formation of clouds and rain. Eventually, this degrades the environment because it's lacking the water that it needs. Deforestation has many negative impacts on the environment, but it can't be completely stopped because humans rely on it so heavily. So what can we do? One way to fix this problem is to change how we harvest trees. Instead of cutting down every single tree, we can selectively choose trees to cut, and leave others to try and help maintain some of the ecosystem functions. Protecting and conserving ecologically sensitive areas is another way to decrease impacts of deforestation. By selectively choosing regions, we can conserve old-growth forests and also protect endangered species habitats. You can make a difference too. Just follow the 3 R's. The first one is reduce. This means using less. Whether that be paper, tissue, or even toothpicks, just try to use less. The next one is reuse. This one is easy and can save you money. For example, Use reusable containers and cups instead of disposable ones. Another example is to reuse old furniture or pass it on to someone else. And lastly, the third R is recycle. This means disposing of waste properly. Make sure recyclable items go into the correct bin so that they can be remade into something new. Try and reduce your impact. You can make a difference.
It's time for us to reflect on the lesson. Right, reflection activity. And with the topic deforestation, I want you to do a think, puzzle, explore. We've done a few of these recently, so you should know how to do them pretty easily. The topic of deforestation, I think. Something that still puzzles me is, I would like to explore blah 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 further. That's all. And merci beaucoup pour. You guys probably don't speak French, so I'll have to give that one up. But thanks heaps, and always, que very